order. Call the meeting to order. Okay. We'll start with old business, 10 Julia Lane. Carol?
About the information.
Right, so. What were the questions that we asked that she responded to?
To know the depth from the wall to where the window is now. And I took the measurements. They wanted to see pictures for the rest of the building. And also the diagram which is submitted of a building, a whole new window, not a frame in a frame, but the
Yeah.
whole new.
Okay, so is that what is being submitted? Is that they're replacing the window?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
Can you just explain the three dimensions? So you said
One
three,
is
yeah.
how far in is the window on the outside
So-
from the wall? So I measured
From the
that.
outside, the side of the window sits 3 inches in from the exterior
Right,
brick.
on the side.
Okay.
So on the bottom, because it has a little bit of a ledge, it's 4.5 inches.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you wanted it from the inside, that was 6 inches. It was 3 inches, 4.5 and 6.
Okay, so the sill protrudes another 1.5 inches.
So what I've been told by the person who'd be installing it is that it will go in the exact same place of the current window.
Okay.
All right, anybody have any other questions?
The frame thickness in total from the wall, the frame, and then the glass, sort of what that dimension is on, let's say, the sides that we were wondering. That
The width of the frame.
basically, and
From the
then
front, it should be. I emailed the spec sheet that he gave me.
yeah, just that dimension on the side, and then with the sash, it doesn't have the operable sash part of
How
it.
wide the frame is, it should be in the spec sheet.
I think there was definitely a section, but it wasn't dimensioned.
No, there's no dimensions on this.
Well, it says 3 1/4 inch frame depth.
Yeah, yeah. And I wasn't honestly sure if that was
Yeah, what is that?
depth or width, if that would be the frame and sash or just frame.
Do we have information?
Yeah, I think the thickness is 3 1/4 inch because it says it mulls with all 3 1/4 frame depth operable and fixed windows. So that's connecting units to each other. So that 3 1/4 is the depth, not the width of any of the
And it's
aluminum
also on
profile.
the product details.
Yeah, we can see that, oh no, that's an overall depth, yeah, it's just that we don't have any of these like these details. We've got a lot of overalls. But it's hard to tell like how big this is. Compared to this. And how
I
big this
believe
is
he
compared
said
to
to
this.
me, it's supposed to be the same. I sent over the new estimate that he gave, and it does a description, it has a description, and he said it's, everything is supposed to be the same as the existing window.
You sent the estimate over?
We did, yeah.
Because the description is in there.
Well,
Yeah. Most of them don't.
There's mold with, all 3 1/4
Yeah.
inch depth operable and fixed windows.
Yeah, that's just saying you can connect it to any other window that's 3 1/4 inch and you won't have any issues there.
I know, but,
Yeah.
the upper portion is a fixed window.
Yeah, so it says at the bottom's operable, it says, what else is in there? It was helpful.
Offset fix with crossbar at equal height to existing windows, bottom sash only lifts up, include full screen.
This one's actually blast removal and install. Is that the older one? Not the one over there. It's like glass and. January 31st.
That one.
Oh, yeah,
That might be the older one then.
No. Yeah, they last in the end. No. Do you have anything?
No, I think that, I have no problem with pleading this with, conviction that everything has to be, framed and match the size of the existing window.
Is this for all three?
I assume you want all 3 done, not with one.
That's the-
Yeah. And they remind me, they are the three, that's all the post, this is all the post office, right?
You see the
It's
double
this-
doors, so it's
Yeah.
3 going this way.
So. Is it 1, 2, and then 3? Yes. Yeah. 1, 2, okay, so it's the 3 between the door, there's 2 doors, there's double French doors with glass, and then there's another. Looks like a fire door or something.
So there's 3, those are the 3. the
Oh,
double
those are,
doors,
okay,
And these 3 windows are mine.
okay. And then there's a door. Right, like, is that fire door right here? Is that over?
That's down, I don't know if I got that in the picture. Oh, yeah, there's a door, and then
Yeah.
there's a senior.
Okay.
Down there.
So you've got doors, your 3 windows, and then a fire door. I mean, I agree with Al. If all 3 are being done and the. Mullion. That line is carrying across, it's not gonna be an exact. Repeat, you can't replicate a fixed window with an operable window, so I don't have any issue with that. Especially if all 3 are being done, I think that would be kind of a little bit of a different story if it was just 1 or 2 of those 3.
Yeah, I think if it's a full frame replacement, that's great. It will help with the depth a lot. And so if we can just write some of these things into the approval, I would feel comfortable with that. The data that we talked about last week for that, check rail and,
Okay, so, what are the notes that we want to put on the application for the vote?
The full frame replacement, which is in the quote, which is not printed, but was emailed, I must have not, I just didn't see it, so it's a full frame brick to brick replacement.
yeah,
And this rail is continuous,
Yep, the horizontal rail. is
all 3, and
continuous.
matching the other ones as
Yep.
best as possible.
Yep,
Okay, so 1, full replacement. To frame size to match existing, or to match what is being replaced.
yeah. That could be interpreted differently, but,
All right, then how do we want to phrase it?
I mean, we want that the horizontal rail to be the
Well,
same.
that I think is something separate. I'm talking about the size of the frame.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely carry for the fixed part on the top, the bottom might be a little different by the looks of it in the drawing, right? It's. Yeah, it's gonna have to be a little bit, it's gonna be a little bit bigger because it's incorporating track and stuff, but
Fixed portion
yeah, exactly.
frame.
Same dimensions to match.
Match. This thing, horizontal, rail, height of horizontal rail to match. And all of the windows.
Yeah.
And it's really this sash that the mile.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's exact. Yeah. It's,
Okay,
I mean, it's not gonna be anything. It's a pretty basic aluminum window installed in the window in general, so it's just gonna be repeated.
okay. So do I have a motion concerning the application modified as follows, the following notes? A full replacement of window, fixed portion frame, fixed portion frame size. I'll change that on the size of the frame and the fixed portion to match existing. And then the horizontal rail heights to match all other windows.
And installed at the same depth of the brick face,
Okay.
right.
which
Yeah.
is what he, the obvious thing, but yeah. that should be okay.
The from the front,
Face of the brick
yeah.
and sill.
Well,
installs?
yeah, on the front side, that's really the
Yeah.
critical. Okay, so do I have a motion concerning application with those qualifications?
I would make a motion to accept the application as modified.
Do I have a second? Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 0.
Thank you.
I've got it, Carol.
Good.
Thank you.
So do I get something sent to me then or emailed or?
I will email the certificate of appropriateness and you'll be on distribution.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was discussing how to make the window process easier. Do we can touch on that now, or do we do that sort of after? I don't want these guys to, but I would love to have a worksheet where it's just fill in the blank so that it's not,
Yeah,
you know, her having to.
Yeah.
And go
Right.
backwards.
I love that idea.
Mhm.
Okay, let's work on
Okay,
that,
good.
yeah. One other question about that specific building, if these windows get put in, they will be different, we know that, we're hoping that they'll be complementary. There are lots of tenants in that building, and I think it's important
Yeah.
that other windows, if they become operable, match.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can, does it need to be in this response? Because it's not, she's the tenant, she's not the owner. But so that a different tenant doesn't come, then it's hard, it just.
No, I think it absolutely has to be done that way. I don't know what the protocol is. Is it just
Well-
referencing back the old application or?
I guess. Since this is, we're dealing with the original window installer.
Yeah.
The question becomes, okay, if we were to add that as a note, and
We can ask maybe also for dimension cut sheet, which
So that we have it on
was
file,
asked for
yeah.
before, but at least at a bare minimum so that it's on file. With
Oh.
brand, with like maybe, you know, a brand catalog or something from the installer who's just a local guy, so
I looked at their website and didn't.
there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
I think it's very
how do
valid,
we
though.
want to phrase, the fact that, any additional windows in the building are in fact, follow this format?
I mean, it'd be easy to phrase, but is it in this approval that is how it should be done, or?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Well, Carol's the applicant. right?
Yeah,
Not,
yeah.
not the building. owner.
No, the building owner he signed.
Yeah, he's giving
Oh, yeah,
approval on
okay.
it, of course, but
So, the question then, but the question is can we put on, qualifications which for work that's not being proposed?
you've been doing this a lot longer than I have.
So what do you think, Gary?
That's,
Well, not that it matters what I think, but I think since it's not pertinent to this approval.
yeah,
But maybe you as the chair could notify the owner of the building or whatever that this was approved.
right,
And we would
Okay.
expect that going forward.
I think,
Mhm.
I think what we have to do is be vigilant so that if somebody does in fact come up and, request, we can state that this is, a criteria,
yeah.
a criteria. Okay,
And can we require a dimension cut sheet? The dimensions we wanted?
well, we
So
can,
that
I
we
mean.
Have it in our file.
But I mean, I guess my question is that if we state that it's supposed to match the existing, how much more detail
Well,
does
'cause
it need to be?
Lots of salespeople say lots of things. I mean, I trust Ray personally because I actually do business with him, but also he did the original windows in this building. He's not gonna be around in 15 years, you know, if this is yeah. So if this was to come up again in the future, you get, you know, match existing is a famous.
Carol's windows will be there though,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
like, they would just have to measure everything again. I think we were just trying to streamline the process
Sure,
for everybody
yeah.
rather than.
Well, I think that may go back to the issue about a window cut sheet, which is part of the application forms. Right, that's what you were proposing.
Yeah, I think if we could just have a fill in the blank worksheet, with future applicants. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to know that the sash isn't, 5 inches thick for some odd reason now
Yeah.
and not later. But that's one hurdle, but, I think we let her.
Yeah.
Not overly burden
Yeah.
her.
All right.
And then if I was the owner, I would want to know in advance if I'm saying yes to one tenant, that I'm locking into that window for all of the tenants. I would want that to be clear on the approval.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big ask to ask for a dimension. The cut sheet that was sent to us to be resent with the dimensions along with the brand, kind of clear brand information. Clearer.
Well, I guess my question is, should we send, a letter to Galero, stating that, or, we have no assurances or, no,
Yeah, I think that's fine too, because he needs to sign off on this anyway, so if a future tenant comes to him to ask the same request, then he can say, yes, but it has to be exactly this. So yeah, sure, that's another easy way to do it too.
so, letter to the owner. All right, I'd like to hold off on, 21 Parsonage Street, until later on. Let's get some of these other applications out of the way.
One
Because
time,
they're not
Kate.
very-
The one time I'm like, yeah, we always go in order.
So, you don't mind,
No, it's fine.
okay. So, 7 Fair Street,
Seven Third Street, I think there's, 3 minutes away.
Oh, okay.
Oh, great. Oh, maybe, yeah, perfect. As the homeowner, I was, just suggested you come over, but,
No, normally we try to represent our clients.
okay,
Sorry.
great, great, great.
Okay.
Okay,
Kate
recusing myself.
there, so she's recusing, she can leave the room now.
Remember?
Any issue with that?
Partner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just yours, fine.
I don't think you need to leave the room or the table. I think you would just,
I'll sit here.
Well, I'll take over your spot, and you can take over with him.
Oh, I didn't use to occupied.
because when it comes to the vote, you would abstain for the reasons that you've
Yeah.
let us.
Well, you,
So when we vote, come back and sit and say you abstain. Okay,
Really both scored 100 on this game then.
You did. We're creating spaces or something. I don't know what Courtney. Yeah, sorry. We have a competition going on from the weird Tetris thing.
Oh, nice.
I believe.
Oh, it's my favorite one.
okay, I'm sorry. What's your name?
Courtney,
Courtney.
sorry.
Please tell us what you're proposing.
So we're proposing a 6.56 kilowatt roof mounted solar system at 7 Fair Street. It's gonna consist of 16 panels on the south roof.
Is, the face of the building facing Main Street.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it technically faces the neighbor. You wanna get really technical?
Well, it's in the direction of the Main.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. Do you have a detail of how this is going to be installed on the roof?
We have the racking system on page 3 of the plan. There it starts. Yes.
Okay. And I guess the other question is that, obviously there are cables which, run from the panel to,
The
either-
theater.
yeah,
Correct. So his conduit would run,
so this is it's not a battery system, right?
no, there's no battery being installed.
Okay, this is just reversing the flow.
Yeah, so his conduit would run over the access roof down to the meter. So
The back of the roof and then.
this is what you're saying here. Where are you saying it's going? So it's up to the installers when they go to install usually. But if there's a preference, we can note that. They can either run it from the back of the panel, starting at the back this way, or they can run it this way. But then they're using a lot more piping. So it would make more sense for them to come and go like that. And how far back, setback from the gable edge would the cables be? If they were to install it this way, is it like 12 inches back or like 6 inches back or? I'd say about 6 inches.
And where does that enter the building? Where do
The
they?
conduit doesn't go inside the building. It runs along
down.
and connects to the meter.
Okay, and where's the meter? Over
Um,
there on this side,
Meters
On the-
up in the front.
on the north side of.
Correct.
Yeah. So how does that work at the edge of the roof line? Does it kind of tuck back under the soffit and then hug the side of the building, or is it drilled through the roof or?
No, it lays right on top. We don't drill inside the.
So then it comes,
This is the side of the house, Like if that's the soffit, if the cables go down like this around the roof. go
Yeah, they're
back,
gonna-
And then go all the way down to the meter down here.
Yeah, they're gonna go inside piping though. Not just gonna be loose cables.
Right.
But you'll see like a system.
Correct.
Just out of curiosity, why are two panels oriented different?
Our measurements versus the engineers. We have the piping a little bit outside the 3 feet. We are under the impression that this is not going to fit with those ones next to it. On the off chance that it does when they got on the roof and they have enough room for that fire path, we can make it oriented so it's more aesthetically pleasing. But based on the measurements that we pulled from Aurora, I don't think it's gonna fit properly with that pipe there.
In other words, with this pipe here, is
Correct.
that what you're talking about? What is that, a vent stack?
It's a better pipe, yeah.
There's also a huge tree on the street right here that would block part of the sun, so it's actually better for the solar.
And these are all existing
Correct.
things. Okay.
No, sorry. The disconnect switch does not exist yet.
But the meter and all.
The
that.
meter's
meter.
down by what, like 6 feet off the ground, 4 feet off the ground or something, or
8 feet off the ground.
8 feet off the ground?
It's above car height.
Yeah, I'm like,
It's in the driveway.
it's right there, right?
Yeah, so
So
the car can't hit it.
Do you have a gutter up there or no? Oh,
There's a gutter.
downspout? Is there downspout on that?
No.
No. And what is the material of the pipe and how big is the pipe that the conduit is running? PVC or?
It's PVC. It's about 1 inch, 1.5 at half at max.
White PVC? I don't have any issue with the solar. I think the only hang up a little bit is the white PVC coming down the side of the house, tucking under the roof line and then coming down at the front corner.
Our piping is actually silver.
Okay, silver, same.
I don't know if it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's black or dark, it may be, but, that's sort of my only
Yeah, I mean, is it
kind of hang up.
possible to run it down the back
And then
and
down
then
the side
down
of the
this
house.
way? And then under the soffit back down to here? Is that a possibility? Rather than on the street facing facade?
So you wanna like run it under this?
Or at the back, just if it's easier to run it down the roof.
Yeah, I was thinking that and then down,
going down this instead of going around the roof there. And then going back and returning to the existing.
because there's a downspout on the gutter on the back corner of the house where you could kind of hide it too, and then come back up to where the meter is in the front.
So like here, yeah.
I
put it
wouldn't go
down-
down on the bottom of the house though. That would-
Not, it's not,
Yeah,
I
that
don't,
would be
yeah, I don't
pretty-
mean down on the
yeah.
ground, I mean, maybe even at the brick where. the
No, I
brick-
wouldn't do that either, because
Okay.
there's a skirt detail that would affect that.
Okay.
It would have to go underneath the roof line.
Underneath the roof line.
Yeah.
So like from here, going like that, is that what you're saying?
No, over the top of the roof,
On
like she
top,
mentioned,
right.
and then it would just go down,
Down
and then under the soffit.
and then this way,
Yeah.
and then down, okay.
If you guys need it.
So is this the meter here?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right there.
In the front there, yes.
So basically, what we're talking about is. And I guess it doesn't make a difference which end of the solar panel the conduits or the piping comes out of. In other words, are we saying that the pipe, that the cables come out here or here?
No, it doesn't make a difference.
Okay. So if we ask that it come out here, go over the edge, go down this rafter. Okay, so then we're down over here. And then it becomes a question of, do we run it under the eave here?
Yeah,
and then
that's what
drop down?
Ken's saying.
I would go under the eave. If you go down the house, it would ruin the details of the house.
All right. But, all right, so here's the peak of the roof. So if you have your conduit coming around, and run it under the eave here, run it under the eave here, and then down to the meter.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the house more compared to just going over the roof in the front and then coming straight into the box. Now we're running it along the whole house.
I know, but,
And he has another pipe here already. We can't cut across that. We've got a drain pipe here that we can't go over.
Where?
This photo.
That's the radon exhaust.
you're talking about the leader? The leader, the gutter from, the leader from the gutter?
Yeah.
All right, but the thing is that you're, well, what is this pipe?
I'm not sure what that pipe
Which one?
is. This
That's the
one.
radon exhaust.
Radon exhaust. Okay, because, the question is that you can, if you're running the conduit here, you can run it between the leader head and, the underside of the eave. We're trying to minimize the.
I mean, if there was an option for a different material that was a dark color, I
mean, we
wouldn't
can
have
always
as much.
place it.
Yeah, I think the house that
We
was,
just can't take stickers that go on it.
Yeah, we can't, I mean, what, can we? Put that as part of it? We can't tell anyone to paint anything. Or what colors they can do it, but-
We can say to paint it, but we can't tell you what color. We
The house that-
want it a
You
cold
want it
spring
color?
polka dot.
oh, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a utilitarian color because it's gonna match the stovepipe that's already on top of the house, so it's like the EMT silver color. The house that was done on Church Street that has the solar panels, the brick house, they have their conduit going in front. In the similar position that she's proposing today, would go on top of, in front of the house on the roof line, set 3 feet back. I think that would be the most utilitarian. I think it would suit the house the nicest as well, because if you're walking down,
Are you talking about the one that, where the panels are set on the porch?
no, they're on the roof. It's the brick house, behind the old hardware store.
You remember that?
I can't
no, I
picture
think
it.
that was before my
Yeah.
time.
Is it a recent install?
I think it was Empire Solar. That
Oh.
It was.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was yours. They did the roof and the solar panels at the same time.
It's not the one behind your house. Is it?
No, it's,
What's the other?
First Street. I don't remember. My feeling is that if you put it underneath the soffit, when you're walking down Main Street, it won't look as nice. I think it'll look more utilitarian if it's on top of the roof going over.
Well, but the alternative that you're talking about is bringing it down here
No, it's on top of the roof.
on top of the roof.
It's either in the front or in the back, but it'll do the same thing in either place. So do we want it at the
Right.
facing facade, or do we want it at the left, which is
Well, I
our
think that
purview,
you-
or do we want it at the
Yeah,
left?
where you want it in the back,
Yeah,
which is less visible.
But then it's gonna run along the length of the house. And that will
under
be-
the eave.
Yeah,
Church Street.
and then it'll be more visible, I think.
Then,
Well, if it's under the
Then in
eave,
the
it'll be
front?
more visible.
Yes, because you won't see it, because it's gonna come over the top of the house and then straight down the panel. And the other way would be from the back of the house and then run along the whole side of the house. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but what's gonna be less visible, I think. if you're
Well, I
gonna-
think running it down the eave and having it come over the roof line and then tuck up under the eave at the back of the house and carry all the way to the front under the eave, which is always pretty much in shadow, especially on the north side of the house, is definitely gonna be less visible.
Yeah, I agree.
all right, so. Notes. Okay, well, let me ask the board, any questions from the board?
Not other than that, no. I mean, if, like you said, if there's room on the roof to orient all of the panels the same, I think everybody would prefer that, but you'll have to make that call in the field, right?
Okay, there it is, there's my pen. All right, so. Are we talking about running it down here on top of the roof?
Mhm.
And then through the roof, under or around?
Over the gutter.
Yeah, you're always
Yeah.
going around. It's always gonna go over and then
Okay,
tuck back
yeah.
under the eaves and return.
All right, so, jog it over right way and down over here. And then it goes over the edge
Mm-hmm,
and runs here.
mm-hmm.
Like it's high up.
And,
That's possible for the-
Yeah.
a drop down to the utility. Okay. Do I have a motion concerning this application for a solar panel with the routing of the power cables as shown on the drawing,
Is this as amended?
as amended, yes.
I would move to accept the application as amended.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay,
Got it.
you're abstaining,
I'll abstain on this one.
and if you could just place on your record, it will be.
Thank you.
I'm a resident.
Thank you. Well done.
Courtney,
Courtney, okay.
Yeah.
No, Kelly, so.
Okay.
Sally's customer service, I hold on permits.
Right.
All right, thank you guys.
Good luck.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Okay, two down. 81 Main.
81.
Evening, Kathleen.
Hi.
Tell us about your sign application.
Two signs, one on the side and one in front of the logo room,
Okay, this is the building that's.
right next door.
Yeah. Thank you for the detailed application.
This was great.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
It's like,
We really appreciate it.
Seems like it would be huge, and then I'm looking, I'm like, and I walked down and saw the Pig Hill sign, I was like, okay, yeah, this,
Give you a reference.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, I guess my only question, and this really doesn't have an impact on approval, but, it's just hung from the bracket, right?
Yes, I think,
Yeah, there's,
there is an attachment with
Mhm.
a bar.
Yeah.
The hanging
Here.
bar.
it was in right here.
I think the one after that, the page.
Boom.
I like that,
Great.
I like that a lot, actually.
Simple.
Yeah, very simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, I guess, the question is, if that is the materials. I know in the past we've had, a polymer material which is used for the sign body. But I don't know if it's high density urethane.
I'm okay with this material because it's a removable sign. Not
And
Yeah.
it's
to the
lightweight,
building
Yeah.
and it
and,
looks like wood.
and it,
Yeah. Mhm.
Are the letters, I know this is somewhere, are they
It's
carved
raised-
into it?
It
They're
carved
writ-
into it. I
the-
think they call it sandblast. Yeah, so it's kind of raised free.
The
So
letters
it-
will be raised
Raised, yeah.
from the material, okay. Okay, yeah.
Okay, and I guess, I see it says that you feature smooth or textured backgrounds, so.
I think we
that we first moved.
smooth,
Yeah.
the smooth background,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Mhm.
the fake,
We just make it simple.
yeah.
Clean looking.
Smooth background.
Okay,
I
questions from the board?
like it. I like a nice sans serif type and I think it's nice, yeah. And
We're not allowed to comment on the.
we're not, well.
I do, I'm falling in love with the graphic,
Yeah.
and so I'm trying to
That's how
think if that
those are.
isn't the graphic.
We're not allowed to
sorry.
comment on the type?
So. The
Well, then
content-
why, with the Susie's Dancing Dialogue, they talked about the irreverent font that was used and Joe Thompson talked about the font, for the one we just approved right next door. Okay, I rescind my
Well-
liking of your type choice,
As far
I
as.
still like the way the sign looks, so
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know. We can,
maybe they just referenced it and we,
well,
Nodded our
the
heads.
issue is that we're not allowed to comment on the content. So by the content, are we talking about fonts?
no, we're
I
not
don't
talking
think
about
so.
Oh, that's right, it's more like language.
speech thing, I
It's
don't think.
more like, we
yeah.
don't want like a.
We also commented on the, we also commented
Like
on the typeface of, for the town hall, when they asked us, even though it was like not binding in any way, remember town of Phillipstown, when they redid the building and they said, and we all thought it, I think it was an ugly time, anyways, well, we're not in.
I don't especially, well. I don't think it's that critical an issue when it comes to this particular something.
Yeah.
So,
I was curious, I like how the sign looks, I don't have, nothing stands out as an issue to me, but generally walking down Main Street, there are very few signs
Yeah.
that protrude perpendicular from the buildings, maybe all four, with the Pig Hill being the largest. I was surprised by that, I didn't know if there's a precedent.
well, the issue is that it needs approval from the village. Because you're cantilevering onto their
If it's
property.
village
Oh,
property
okay.
and then it's an insurance thing, right? And this is not, this is,
Yeah.
they own the stoop, so it's not the same issue, yeah. I'm good, I like it.
And I appreciate the detail
Yeah.
of the and the context and the examples, so it's good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so
So we can-
the only modification is that we're talking about smooth texture, smooth background.
Okay.
So do I have a motion to approve the application as amended by adding the requirement that it be smooth background? And you've already.
Yeah, I know, I'm looking, I'm making
We-
eyes,
we
does
need
somebody want to
somebody else.
speak up here?
To approve the application as
Do I have a second?
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
when are you opening?
Okay, beginning of May.
Okay, great,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay. Last. Market Street, 5 Market Street.
Yeah.
Like, an example, yeah, for example, I mean, maybe. we-
Hi.
Good night.
Good night.
Um, Okay, James, tell us about your project.
So it's simply to assemble a greenhouse in the backyard. It's a kit, made of wood, mainly wood. Fairly simple assembly on a concrete. I'll have to have a concrete plinth made, 8-foot square, and it would sit next to my neighbour's shed, which is slightly smaller but similar.
here?
Yeah, yeah,
Is
that's,
that-
maybe so. And the location will be there.
Are we looking back from your house in this picture?
You're on the deck.
We're on the deck looking at the backyard,
Oh, this is the neighbor's side.
so maybe.
They're not in the
over. And what is the view of, from this one?
That's a view from New Street,
From New Street,
Which
looking,
which is the only way you'd be able to see it from the street.
okay.
In the winter, you'd be able to see it from the. sun.
Oh, this is you here,
Yes, so. the
That's
photo
you.
is- That's
right,
the
kind of
shed,
beneath this tree, right here,
so that shed is more or less what we do.
right here.
There's a fir tree here in the foreground and there's the pool next to it.
Okay. And this is from New Street,
Oh, I see.
looking
You
through.
can really see back there.
You can see it in the winter, yeah.
Yeah, no, it
Sun
makes
really
sense. I
comes
just
there.
said that,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
when I was looking at the map earlier, I thought you were. Untouchable, but yeah, that's great.
And this view is. What is
This is,
Yeah,
this is from New Street, right?
yeah, the pictures in Google, correct, in the, in the,
Well, because this is the, I forget, what is that?
That's this house there, so we're looking, that's,
No, this is
that's the roof
That's-
line right there.
the roof line of this.
yeah. I think when the, because I didn't print that, when that printed, it's just taken that. Bit there,
Yeah, that is basically cropped right here.
and so it's missing the two bits.
So that's not really,
That's the summer view,
that's the summer view
Or
from
from-
New Street.
yeah. So it's behind this willow tree, basically.
Okay. This tree, when this is
Sorry,
all.
Which is
leaking.
your
Where's your house?
house?
This is his house, so
Okay.
it's going right
There.
here.
Oh, by this
This
tree.
isn't your fence, so this is the neighbor's fence,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's just behind that.
So, yeah,
Okay,
like, yeah, right, that's
Okay.
right, that's the
That's
shed that
got
it's
it.
sort of,
I see,
that is that,
thank you, okay.
yeah. So it's only visible from New Street
Yes. In the winter.
in the winter, pretty much. Did you see the picture that he just showed of the I mean, when the willow tree is, it's obscured mostly.
Yeah, I can tell. It's
Yeah.
gonna be completely.
Do you remember when we did this?
I was not on the board.
Yes, you were. Yes.
When we did what?
But,
Approve those windows? No, no,
No,
I remember my windows, Al.
okay.
I remember, I mean, came before not too long ago for the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't remember ever.
Well, I remember the discussion, they said, oh, it's in the back, you'll never see it.
Right. Right, that is extremely visible. Yeah,
Okay, and so this is what you're proposing,
Yeah.
Kit,
there's the one on the top left-hand side, is where it's relevant. It's not
the 8x8 colonial.
Yeah,
and the roof is corrugated plastic? or-
yes, it's like a, plastic, yeah. So I like it.
The windows are probably vinyl.
I think they're glass, actually. I mean, the, I don't know what the frames are, but I think it's wood. Instead of the heavy.
I'm sure the building is wood.
Yeah.
There's no way the windows are wood.
Yeah,
I kind of scrolled through that document that was sent, which was
yeah,
the installation or the assembly guidelines. I didn't see any information about the windows. They look like vinyl windows with the simulated divided light and between the two panes. They definitely did.
Yeah, I didn't look
In
at
the,
it.
in the email, they
Yeah.
definitely did. And let's see if we,
I can't,
which I
see because it's all wrapped up.
I don't know, you know.
Okay, this one's in color, so it's slightly easier. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's in the history.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
I mean,
And I know we can't talk we didn't, we don't have purview over color, but that it's less visible on a white building, but.
I'm gonna think away.
So, basically, the structure is wood.
I wouldn't mind the windows so much if they didn't have those fake, I mean, there's like. Transom panes don't even relate to the lower, like, it's a little bit. It's a bit. Do you know whether you have any option with that? I guess it's probably not.
The whole panel,
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, you can install it in, you know, 4 panels and then. And 2 gable panels and then you put the rest on.
Anyone
What
else?
is the siding material? It looks like the siding material goes on top of, plywood or chipboard.
From what I can see, I mean, as I said, the panels are already. built and stuff.
I know.
No, you're looking at that.
Sort of
It's like a-
beadboard
Yeah,
ply.
yes.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's got a groove in it. These for a PDF, these pictures aren't even that sharp. Yeah, it does look like a kind of a wood grain with a groove in it.
Sorry.
Be like that.
Wider than a beadboard, but it's like a. Really big vertical. Do we have precedent projects like this or accessory structures that we could? Or, I mean, just sort of as a new member of the board for me to understand what the criteria.
and it won't have a
Would be.
foundation. Right, I mean, it has a concrete slab, but
Yeah,
it doesn't
slab.
have
No
a
foundation.
foundation, so.
I can't recall any other line.
My shed,
Oh, yours,
and that's all.
which is
Wood.
really not visible from.
Well, you can see it from the driveway. I mean, I just. On the one hand, this is an accessory building in the back. But I do have a problem with corrugated plastic roof.
You really can see, see right through to the wood.
And I think the siding is the siding wood or a artificial material.
I think it's like the MDF, like a compressed wood. I mean,
Well, no, you're talking, that is the sheathing.
Is the building sheathed?
Well, yeah, I mean, the
Probably
framing,
this-
the
it's-
framing has sheathing. Right over here. The MDF.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So you have the framing and that's the sheathing. But what I'm concerned about, the thing that people will see is the siding. Because this is not the the other side of this wood. It's another material that's installed on top of it, right?
well, in terms, you wouldn't, there's one wall which has the door in it, which has a kind of side, but that's gonna be facing. the
Yeah, what
shed.
you're mostly gonna be looking at is the window side.
Yeah,
from
but
the
the
street.
shed has to be on the north side, and the north side faces the neighbour's
You're
boundary,
mostly,
so
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to see that at all. I mean, not.
I mean, it's more roof and windows that you're looking at.
It's so far away from you. We're talking about two properties away. And at the far end of my property, so it's a third block away from the road that you're going to be looking at. So any detail would be the uncarried telescope.
This is what you're talking about, this side.
That's facing the house, so you're mostly from the street. From here, this view, you're gonna be looking at that. Honestly, I have a bigger problem with that than the siding. Personally.
I mean, the alternative was an aluminium frame, cheap thing that cost $300 from Home Depot. I actually went for this thinking, this is right district, it's done in the style, it's tarnish made. It can't raise any objection. And literally, you know, if there were, in the summer you can't see it, in the winter, someone really has to look with, you know, optical equipment to see any detail. They're just going to see it for square shape of some kind.
And with the fence, they wouldn't see the lower half, I guess, is your fence.
They'll probably just see the pitch from between between the leaves.
Yeah,
Because
is
it
it,
can't-
is it roughly the same height as your neighbor's shed? Do you,
Yeah,
do you, it
It's
is
slightly higher. I think.
slightly higher? Maybe looking at a lot of roof.
Um, Thoughts from the board?
I mean, are you guys wanting something that looks more like a traditional greenhouse versus a traditional, like a shed that looks like, that has lots of windows? Like what, I'm
Well, I mean, the question is that it's an accessory building. But certainly most of it does not comply with our guidelines.
Yeah.
So even though it's an accessory building. And so the question really is that. Does the fact that it is an accessory building far removed from view, does it save it?
What would
So I just want to ask, what exactly?
A painted wood, I mean, a wooden shed with a shingle roof. With,
But you can't have a greenhouse. You can do
What's
this,
the
nothing will
definition?
grow in it. I want to
Sure,
actually put
right.
plants there.
right,
does it have to have a foundation to be an accessory building?
No, I
Or
mean,
is it
you know,
any
this is.
structure?
yeah.
Okay.
So his his alternatives, one was like to go to Home Depot and get some $300 ugly whatever. Would that then come through us, or he'd be able to put that up?
No, that would come to us.
Yeah,
I mean, I did
Any
see one
structure.
recently that was very visible, that was maybe not in great shape.
well, Cold Spring.
But right, I mean, there's something about the patina of history, et cetera. I wouldn't advocate for one in the prominent location it was. But this would seem preferable to that. But then how far, like, what's the next move to get this to be closer to what we would be looking for? I mean, it's true, it would need a glass roof or, plastic, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fakeness of the vinyl windows is again what really kind of gets me the most.
But that's what's in my house.
What's that?
That's what my house has.
Right, which would not be approved if they were before us
If you're
today.
proposing to install.
I mean, fake divided light vinyl is not at all within the guidelines of what we look for, so.
The house opposite is made of vinyl.
What's that?
The house opposite me is entirely vinyl.
Your house is?
No, the house opposite.
Oh,
Number 12.
no, welcome to Cold Spring again, yeah, but that's what we're here to try to enforce for anything that's going to be introduced. So, yeah, I guess it's a decision based on how far it is from.
Is the structure paintable,
Yes, it will be painted. That's the point, yeah.
including this side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My proposal is painted entirely white.
Yeah, that's the irony of, we can't tell you what color to paint it, but if there was a color that's gonna make it all kind of, at least.
Well,
At least
I
it
mean,
would
if
be
it's all painted the same color, then at least,
That's what I mean, so. We're not. Take that into consideration, are we?
so on three sides you have windows, and the only side that is not all windows is the side that has the door.
Which is facing the house, which you
That
can't
was
see.
facing the north. So it will actually face the boundary. Because I want some.
Oh, the door, so
So that's facing north.
Main Street.
so your gable is gonna match your neighbor's house, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
it
this
will
way.
abut to the shed, basically.
Okay.
Because, otherwise.
You're also then not really seeing the roof then. Cause it's going to, the gable is gonna match
Right,
there, so it's gonna be like that, so you're not really looking at
it's gonna match the gable on that. The house on, or the building on Main Street.
That's the back of the wine bar, is that,
Yeah.
okay. And that's what it's closest to on the
Yeah,
north side.
just the ones that doesn't really have any garden.
And is it set back from the property lines according to the zoning?
I think it's 5 feet they have to be back.
You know?
I think it has to be back 5 feet. And that's what you need
Step
anyway
back
to open the
5
door.
feet. I'm okay with it. It helps a bit to me too, the roof is sort of not gonna be visible. I thought it was oriented a different way, so.
I mean, if there are alternatives that look more like steel and glass window greenhouses that are essentially all glass and don't have wood siding and plastic corrugated roofs, if you want to explore those. I mean, there's another alternative besides just like a home. like
Well,
a-
the problem is I bought the thing, it was not there. And I thought, oh, that's exactly what the historic district would want. And then it looks like a. Learning stone.
Are the muntins removable?
The what?
Muntins.
I don't think so.
Well, the
They're-
mullions between the
So
windows.
there's lines on the window.
They look like they're sandwiched in the glass, so.
You know, I couldn't explore, but. I mean, I'm sure it would be possible to put a glass roof on.
Let me ask you one other quick question about the windows. Is it double glazed?
I know that.
Yeah.
The greenhouse,
Yeah.
why would you double glaze it?
Don't think they are.
All right,
There's nothing that's like close up enough in here, I mean, it just.
well, if it's not double glazed, then certainly.
Right,
the
then
muntins,
they're just on the inside.
or the outside.
I mean, he would have the window presumably. There was a physical physical sample if that's helpful.
Yeah. You have this already?
Impulse purchase.
I mean, to me, if the fake muttons are removed, I think then I really don't have any real qualms with it personally. Paired with the orientation, so the roof, you're not really looking at the roof, you're looking at the gable end of it. So,
Okay, and you know what we're talking about, the muttons as opposed to the mullions.
the way that the pane is kind of
Yeah,
divided there. Because it's just kind of trying to look historic, but not succeeding. Kind of better. Like the way that this, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's divided, yeah. That they would just ping off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you're right, why would it be a double glazed window if it's a plastic roof, but I mean, if it's the cheapest option available, they might be, but yeah, I don't know.
All right, do we want to list that as a qualification? Or you want this back for your?
Oh,
Do we want to list it as a condition? Okay, I hesitate approving this because I think this violates so many of our standards that, but it is sort of remote. It's far away from the public way. I'm willing to live with it, but I'm not happy about it. Your thoughts?
I feel too new on this one. I don't know what, part of me is like, yeah, this seems fine. The other part is, but it could be there forever and we should get it right. And maybe like Lauren's saying, there's this, way of doing a historic structure. I'm really on the fence. And the windows.
Would you be
Yeah.
able to take one of the windows out of the packaging to kind of be able to,
I mean, it's literally the entire, it's four pieces, basically. It's 4 walls that you bolt together.
everything is installed,
Yeah.
the wall, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I don't know, there's no,
take closer photograph.
is it unpackaged?
Well, I've wrapped it all up because it's winter.
Yeah.
And it's all covered in tarp, but I could try and get to cleaning that one deck at the moment.
Do we ever do field visits?
Yeah, can we go look at it?
Check it out with a coffee?
Is that something that is done?
Sure. I've never-
Is that something that is done for us to go actually look at it?
Well, we could if that's what you want to do. And the question is, he's coming for an application, realistically for us to look at it. That means that we would defer the vote until next month.
And the seeds have to get in. There's
Yeah,
a greenhouse.
It's gonna take a while anyway, so.
Well, realistically, you're not gonna have anything growing in there
No.
until later on,
Exactly.
So let's take a look.
That'd be great. I think that'll be
Yeah.
a good learning
Yeah.
opportunity for me and I think helpful for all of us.
Okay, now herein lies the issue. As soon as we have 3 members of the board together, it's an official meeting. So you have to go and view it separately.
I see.
Or 2 people can go and
Two
take
people.
detailed photographs and share them via email.
Right, so, we'll, defer this until next month. give everybody an opportunity to go out and take a look at the.
So we can kind of
Okay.
arrange ourselves and then communicate with you about a
Sure.
time.
Yeah, anytime.
Okay,
I work usually 3 days a week here. So 3 days a week in Manhattan, 2 days a week here.
okay.
So I'm usually around. Or a weekend or. Well, you need
April second.
April second, oh, to reconvene
Mhm.
for an official, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
I tried it recently, and I was like, "Oh, let me tell you about that green specifically." Maybe
It-
something interesting.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's not like we have a lot of greenhouse applications.
No, I don't, no.
I can't recall
There aren't a
a
lot.
previous application.
You
for
can?
it. I can.
Oh, wow.
Green thumbs around here.
I know.
Surprised by that.
All right, Doug.
All right, Sarah, come on down.
Sarah, thanks for your patience.
All right.
Right, I mean, we really wanted to.
Do not leave.
acknowledge.
Okay, so here we're talking about the demolition of this barn. Have people had a chance to go out and take a look at it?
I did, I walked by
Oh, you did?
over the weekend.
I could have let you inside.
Oh, I didn't wanna disturb, I snooped without, yeah. But thank you, yeah, I mean,
Can see it.
it is in really, really bad condition. Like you kind of explained to us, it's not on a foundation, the wood is all rotting everywhere.
Yeah.
I
Just bad.
I wouldn't say I take it lightly at all to just say get rid of it. But I do understand that, and I did watch, thank you for sharing the videos and the marking the times. That was like,
Yeah.
For
awesome.
pointing them
I
out.
went back and watched.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'm
Well, I
sorry.
usually watch
Okay.
today, and there's also a workshop of the historic board too,
Yeah.
talking about, what they were gonna take it down. It wasn't gonna stay there,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Well,
I feel like I personally, if there is a way to salvage components and wood planks and, like even, that's my opinion. I did it in my own house when we did certain things and kind of opened things up in the attic especially. Well, wasn't ever an attic, but
Yeah,
we
when
saved
old
wood and we
house.
put beams in and kind of used some of the old wood, and that was our way of kind of preserving and honoring, at least on the interior. So, I don't have a huge hang up if this has to come down because it's the right thing personally.
Yeah, I'm just mostly concerned with, just for safety reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, when my car looked at it, he said, well, it could last 2 years or it could last 2 months. And so,
Yeah.
let me put a little context in, because I also saw that video, and then it was kind of interesting. Paul Henderson, who was the speaker, he said that he's sort of an expert as far as accessory buildings, which is true because he was involved in the lawsuit. He had, at the time, I think he lived on Stone Street. I think now they live in Poughkeepsie. But he was rebuilding his shed in the back. And it was one of those things that was non-conforming. And so he wound up rebuilding the whole thing, which violates the zoning regulations, because if you're gonna rebuild it, you need to rebuild it complying with the zoning regulations, and so.
Yeah.
He has done that, I mean, he became familiar with accessory buildings because he was involved in that lawsuit.
Well, they were also trying to get a permission to convert it into kind of
But they were-
residential,
but-
renovate and
Yeah, I mean, let's at least sort of put that aside, because realistically, am I correct that you have no intention of
No.
turning into a residence?
No, we
Okay.
don't. I mean, our intention, well, initially was, oh, well, maybe we can somehow renovate it or kind of build, do something from the inside to kind of prop up the outside. But, it's just not in great shape and, also, but ideally, we would like to put something there that's very similar to it in size and profile, perhaps not quite as much on top of the sidewalk and the neighbors, just a little, move it a little over. But, for us, it would be more of a large shed or art studio or workshop sort of a thing, but not
Okay,
residential.
Well, just to sort of continue on the train of thought as far as what they were proposing. What they were proposing is in fact demolition of the structure and then rebuilding the shape. And that was it. So the only thing that was being preserved is the shape of the new structure.
I think they also thought that a lot of those old growth heavy timbers could
Yeah.
be reused.
On the inside.
Well,
Yeah, on the inside.
well, but the thing is that, from what I saw of the framing is not suitable for residential construction. I mean, it was built as a stable. And so that's.
No, but whether or not they were used in the same capacity they're used now isn't really the
Right, they were
point.
probably.
They would
like
be
taken
salvaging what
down
they can salvage and kind of
Right.
reincorporating what they can, right?
Okay. Following that same line of thought, Paul Henderson did the Krups. They were the design builders for all of the renovations that occurred at the Krups.
Is that next door to you? Or like a
Well,
couple
yeah,
houses
one
down
over.
towards the train? Yeah.
And so you have that structure that was on the front. Basically,
Is that on the Downey?
Right, yeah, is it right on the street, sort of? when you
Yeah.
get by the train station?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
there's a building behind it, which was a later addition. There's a accessory structure that is right on the street.
Okay, so,
Garage.
And then the three garages, which
Right.
I objected to because I said it was gonna look like a storage unit, and I still think it does.
Oh,
Now
wow,
that it's
thank
all
you.
finished.
I wasn't involved. so.
But the thing is that that was the same condition there, and basically, the existing structure there, was, actually, it was on, a foundation, but, the dirt was up against the wood. And so the bottom part of the structure was rotted. He removed some of the plaster on the inside, and you can see there was a lot of deterioration. So essentially, what happened there is that they tore it down and they said that they were going to reuse as much of it as they could, but just like at what's his name? James
The River
Hartford.
Architect building.
Yeah, I think that was sort of a nice gesture or promise that they really didn't worry about too much when they're actually doing the construction.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about here because
Well, but as far as the structure, realistically, is there anything that could be? Is there any way that we can preserve the historic fabric?
I mean, I
I
feel
mean,
like we
it's
rely on
just
the
a
owner
little
to,
us saving some of the wood, which we're trying to do at least the door, there's some big doors, top and bottom, that, I mean, when they take it apart, basically, they're not gonna they gotta take it apart by hand with a bucket truck, because there's no way, they can just knock it over, it's gonna go all over the place.
yeah.
So, we hope, some of that wood is maybe usable for something. Some of it's not, and some of it's not even old because not Sam, but the prior owner, Brooks Banker, came along one day with a sawzall and like chopped off half the wood on the one side and put new planks there, which is some sort of age, but I don't know what.
Deciding.
Yeah, they just cut it off and like, oh, what's going on? And then they put new boards there, so I don't know.
Well, the question then is that you're talking about some other sort of accessory structure on the lot. Am I correct that it can't be installed there? Because if you're gonna build a new building, it's gotta meet the zoning requirements.
Right.
So therefore, it can't be that close to the property line.
Right, we wouldn't want it, but wouldn't want it to be anyway.
The new zoning dimensions just came out for the village that accommodates existing conditions rather than assume some suburban future model, and it's much more lenient, so
Yeah,
it's
so it's
5
not as
feet on
onerous.
either side
So.
for you, so you're at like 2.5 and 3 maybe, so you're
I don't
very
know,
close.
on the one side, it might even be like a foot, it's really close, and then the
It's close.
sidewalk, it's really close.
Yeah,
But if the building was demolished now and they applied to build something in its place 3 years from now, those.
We would
rules-
we would have to follow whatever the
The
code
current zone,
is.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
right.
5
Which is
feet, so
different
20.
than where it currently is, but
But she could also put it 20 feet away as long as it falls within the setback, right? She could put it in
Yeah.
the middle of her yard.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing that you have to remember is that her lot is a corner lot. Typically, a corner lot, there's no setback on either side of the corner.
No setback at all.
Not for a
I mean,
corner.
this lot is, well, at where the house is a corner, but then this is and they're not.
Right, well, so
This one lot.
therein lies the question, is your intention to join lots, to merge the lots?
Does that matter to us?
Well,
I don't know, I don't know.
because,
I don't even know.
you know,
what-
that
Yeah,
would be a
that's like
question.
tax implication and the rest, you kind of.
There's a
well,
lot
and-
of it, yeah, there's a lot of moving
That
parts to it.
also, it has an impact on the setback requirements.
Right, I just feel like that's a conversation we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
I know, but what I'm saying, I think based on everything that I've looked at, realistically, a structure that size in that location, I don't think if that comes down, you're not gonna build that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
No.
which I think you guys are aware of.
No, we get
Yeah.
that, and I
Yeah.
know that the height, there's I mean, we can apply for variance, and say, well, we want it to be a little taller, or we want it to line up with the edge of our house and not necessarily be, I mean, we can ask, and they can say no, and then we can say, all right, well, then we'll make it 15 feet and we'll move it
Right.
this way, I mean, we don't, we're not trying to live in it, we're gonna like do artwork in it or something.
I think that a
And-
good documentation of what's there, which obviously there is at this point too, only helps with the future potential coming before our board as well with an idea or something.
It's hard for me, what's funny, sorry, I'm trying to speak louder, I was told I was, and I don't supposed to be shouting at you, but if I'm speaking too loud, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
calibrate.
Don't yell at us.
Yeah. What's hard for me is listening to those zoning meetings, it seems like the reason it didn't pass, yes, there were 7 different, like,
There are a lot of.
there are issues, right? But I think the main one was that they were trying to, on a lot that wasn't properly divided, trying to put a residence in a space that was for an accessory use. Right, and that owner, oddly, we sort of have the opposite issue, that owner really was passionate about that project and wanted to do everything to save every piece of wood and to make the building as contextual as possible.
But the use was
The use was the issue. I think, a lot of the arguments that were made for its existing location are, to me, relevant as a
Yeah.
historic structure, the relationship to the main house as the accessory house, even though the lot was bifurcated. The overall form, yeah, I heard, some of those zoning board members saying like, who cares? We have lots of pitched roofs in Cold Spring, like,
Right.
what's the big deal?
Yeah.
But to me, the proportions of the building and the height, the fact that it is a barn accessory to this building that's over 100 years old is really cool. And I think we're losing all of our old barns. And so, now we have a situation where it is potentially in the future accessory to the main building if the lots are combined. If they're not combined, at least it would be a proper use as an accessory structure on this lot. And then as far as the setbacks, changing where they are based on 1 versus 2 lots, obviously would change, but it looks like 5 feet. Either way, given the current code, it's so close. If you were to need to put a foundation on it to move it 1.5 feet, is that still to be compliant with the 5-foot setback, even though it wouldn't be compliant with the height? Like, I just think there is a way to keep this building where it is and to demolish it carefully, build it back up, change it to make it a studio. But I totally respect that you own the property. You might not be able to do that right now.
Well, yeah, we've got a kid in college, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so it's like, what the ideal is like the perfect lot and the perfect owner at the right time coming together. And so it's
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world that we would be able to just
Stabilize.
stabilize
Right.
it, fix the roof. Like almost build something inside of it.
buy some
To-
time.
There's still no
insulated.
foundation though,
But
which
then,
like you're
right, it needs some kind of a. Yeah,
Slab
it
or
needs a
foundation,
floor or a
right.
foundation, a slab, but not necessarily traditional foundation, but. Something to, the floor is.
Well, that and also, looking at the inside, there are a lot of, a lot of cracked beams that are there. I mean, I don't think that what you're proposing is possible, because I think that, if they were let's say money is not an issue. If they were able to rebuild it in its location, I don't think that it would passes any zoning. And obviously, you're talking about spending more than 50% of the value. And so therefore, according to the zoning, they need to then comply with current zoning.
Right. I think with that, I don't know the zoning board. I don't know, existing non-conforming. I get it's over 50%. If zoning now is, 5 feet on either side, which is much better than when it was trying to be a primary residence. And
the use is the big, I think the use is the
with
biggest.
the
hang
old
up.
zoning code.
Yeah.
And so I think it's less of an ask to say, look, we're like 2 feet over, but it's historic and it's important. I also wonder if the relationship between the accessory structure to the main building wouldn't be sacrificed if it were to be nudged the 2 feet that it is off to be
Yeah.
to conform. It's not like it would fly across to the other
I
side of
th-
the
I-
lawn.
I
It could
agree.
still actually sort of be effectively.
Essentially, still, even if we had moved it a little bit towards the house and away from the sidewalk, I mean,
It's still,
essentially, it would seem like it's in the same place. I mean, even it.
That's
it-
my
it
thought,
would
it's
yeah.
quite a large lot. Yeah.
Smaller and,
And
that-
the issue is that you can't just sort of get a bulldozer and nudge it a little bit.
Well,
You're gonna have to take it apart.
You're not going exactly that. You're gonna get the nudge for what purpose?
You would have to take it apart in order to actually move it out of its present location. And my feeling is that as soon as you start taking it apart, it's just gonna fall apart.
yeah, a lot of it. is
And so,
I totally agree. Even to rebuild it, it would have to come down to go up again.
I wonder, and this is just kind of just a thought, like there are companies that disassemble and old structures around the country, around the continent, and rebuild them, and people pay a lot of money. Would it almost, do you think that there's just nowhere near enough left if you actually called a couple companies and were like, hey, would you want this old structure? Not that we would support that, but would that even be an option as a way to give it a second life somewhere else, or is it just?
I
not
mean,
enough there?
I've thought about, well, somebody might wanna take some of the wood, but some of it is just. Cause I did ask, I said, is there a way that we could safely, fix it so that it kind of can hang out a little bit longer until we really know exactly what we're doing with it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Not
wondering. if
exa-
you
not
can
really.
You can carpet, sisters and beams,
Yeah.
right, I know that, I mean, the,
It's just unsafe. It's,
um,
he didn't think that that was.
I mean, I don't know.
At that point,
maybe
though,
we'll
on my
do it,
car?
maybe,
Yeah.
but,
But still,
I
it's
just-
just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah,
like we-
because
Well, it
you're still
is.
gonna then end up, you're still
Yeah.
gonna have all the same battles like you're saying with zoning, because more than 50% of it is gonna be altered, and then you're fighting a battle for,
Yeah,
to do
so a lot of
something
it
you
would
don't-
have to be redone, and so
Yeah.
at some point,
yeah.
so if we. Tried to put money into trying to make it stay up and the roof, the roof is just not, I mean, it'd have to be, the roof would have been taken off, and then you guys would have to say, yes, that roof is fine, you have to approve the roof, and all the time that it
Yeah.
takes to do anything, it, maybe it falls over, I don't know.
I
Well-
mean, there is a way to take measure drawings of the existing building and. I know it's like a whole, there's, and then recreating it 2 feet back or whatever to comply to the zoning at some point. Like it's still there. I know like the material may not be salvaged, but the way it was constructed and the form.
Do
could
we
be
know whether that height
replicated.
building and that,
Well, that's just it.
It's
like,
too tall.
it's too,
It's too
yeah.
tall.
I think that,
I mean,
it's a 100-year-old barn though, right? And so, for me, I would wanna go to zoning, just like we
I'd
did
go
with
to
the
the
letter
section.
that Sean read, saying, look, this is historic. It's, the location's historic, the height is historic. I know that you didn't.
I
like
had a
the
real
letter.
problem with that letter, but I was outvoted, and realistically. We keep saying it's historic, I mean, it's old. That doesn't mean it's historic. Did Lincoln sleep in the barn? Or, is there any historic
Well, that's an,
connection?
No, but
that's, I mean,
No,
what is?
like all of
did-
Cold Spring is like that. It is all a vernacular kind of working village.
And
It's like-
that's the
it's
whole point,
historic
if you
district.
take a
Yeah,
look,
calling-
if you take a look at what's going on, there's a lot of renovation. And changes that are made in order to be able to live in the modern way.
Yeah,
And realistically. There's nothing sacrosanct, we're not dealing with Williamsburg here. And this is a historic district, we have several structures which are individual landmarks. But aside from that, it's a district. So my feeling is that if we start constricting the ability of people to make changes in order to be able to live in the structures, you're endangering more of the historic fabric than you would be if you allowed them to make the changes. I'll give you an example. I used to ride the number 4. And I remember someplace sort of mid Bronx, there was this collection of brick houses. It was a development that dated back to the turn of the century. And I can remember watching them as I rode periodically. And what happened is that there was a fire in one. Pretty soon, the roof caved in because it wasn't occupied. And you can see that if people don't occupy the structures, they're more in danger than anything else. And then I think that this is an excellent example. It wasn't really used, and so therefore it is susceptible to falling apart. And I would rather that people that we give people enough leeway to do what they want to do without trying to hold them to historic standards that are not necessarily applicable to their structure. The fact that this is 100 years old just means that it is part of the district. And I think that is not the same. The same does not apply to the as we would if it was a historic structure like the Butterfield Hospital, which I think we'll end up losing.
I feel like I differ from that. If Sarah's main house was, left to have bats in the attic and it had been uninhabited, it's a brick structure, it would have lasted longer, and I think if she had come in and said, look, I wanna just tear this thing down and build something new, we would have had a lot of dialogue about how to maintain as much as possible to keep the historic structure. We would consider it a worthy building. And so this is an accessory structure that doesn't have a foundation, which makes it more susceptible. It's wood, right? I mean, this was, I think, in the presentation because of the, you know, nuts and bolts material for an accessory building. It's going to require more maintenance over the years. The shingles have to constantly be maintained and the siding and et cetera. That didn't happen. But now we're in a situation where I totally agree this thing needs to like come down. It's not safe, right? But where if it comes down, what is the future of it? And if, you know, Sarah and her family over time is interested in building a new structure, in an ideal world, you know, the mechanism would start working where the design process is such that you don't start building until 5 years from now anyway. You have to do your drawings, you have to do your measurements, you have to get your permits. You know, the existing building has to come down, your approval. But, you know, the upfront costs are different than the building costs later on, but all of that could be put into motion to have, you know, some form of a building that respects the historic context as much as possible while giving the homeowner what she needs to have a studio, not like a barn for a horse she doesn't need, but an art studio. And so what is the appropriate dialogue to make that happen where she's not sacrificing and the like context of the
I think
historic
we're-
village is not being
Yeah,
met?
I think we're in general agreement, so to not
Are we?
beat the proverbial horse that used to live in this barn. I mean, I think in general, we are in agreement about the status and condition of the structure, that it does need to come down, that you may build or want to build in the future, and at that point will be
Well,
before
you'll be seeing.
various boards, and there will be a
If you
lot
guys
of
are still
conversations
here,
we
you'll be
had.
seeing
I
this
do
again.
also take some issue with Al, what you said about historic in general, but that's not really all that applicable, I think, to what we are talking right now and trying to decide and approve or not approve. I think if I would not ask or require dimensions, you know, draw dimensions to be made of this building. I think if that's possible, what's that? They won't ever, well, I know, but we don't even, I mean, to me, that is a burden that I would not put on somebody, to ask them to pay someone to come and do detailed drawings and dimensions of a building that they really have no intention of even coming to the village to ask them to recreate. I mean, you may want to do it.
General dimensions of it, or photos of it.
Like you want to build a studio someday, but you're not saying like, I want to recreate this exact building to these specifications. And if there's 18 zoning hurdles, I'm going to really go to bat because this is what I want. You want interior square footage just as an art studio. Right?
Well,
Yeah,
that and also we're talking about the height
Yeah.
has to be smaller.
That's what I'm kind of saying. So for
What is that?
posterity, if there are drawings and dimensions, sure, I would not ask you to go pay an architect or somebody to come and draw that.
And when, you know, when the time comes, you know, we can ask. Can we make it a little taller? And they might,
And if you have that, I mean, sure, if you
Remembering that-
have that information in your pocket and say, we did the work here, you're welcome to ask zoning to do that.
Because it is so odd. And because because there was a historical precedent, like the more detail you have about this building now, and the more documentation you have, the better a building you will be able to create for yourself in the future.
Okay, and I guess the question is that, can you salvage some components that you can reuse?
Possibly. I mean, we are gonna save some of it and how it gets used. You know, it depends on, you know, what we end up doing.
Well, it also
I mean, it
depends on various pieces of it.
And, you know, there's some, I mean, well, it's some of the stuff on the outside. You know, there's some wood on the inside, there's a few, you know, big, you know, some beams that are probably would be useful, whether it, you know, it depends on what we end up doing. or what do we try to do, right? Because, you know, I can't be specific about it.
I also just, I don't know, I kind of want it both ways, right? Because I get that it has to come down, but just doing research to prepare for this, to try to be, respectful of this specific situation, but also previous projects. I looked at 126 Main and 178 Main. One is the yarn store and the
Yeah.
other's River Architects. And both of those were basically demos.
Mhm.
The difference is they were ready to rebuild. And the dialogue was extensive and the documentation was extensive to demolish.
I think
And
to Al's
same as
point
down there.
before is the prominence of the structure, both in the district and like in the village itself. A structure on Main Street versus an accessory structure, up the hill are,
Right.
different.
Well, that and also you have to take into consideration what you're imposing on the owner. For
Right,
example,
absolutely.
yeah, for example, the yarn store, I mean, the applicant hired a number of architects and structural engineers, and there was a detailed analysis which went and ultimately they tried to salvage as much as they could and reuse it to some extent, but it essentially was a new structure. What's the point? And with that structure, okay, fine, I can understand that, but, for example, the Kemble House,
Mhm.
the one that was being rebuilt over there.
The
Bed and
beam,
breakfast.
yeah.
That was, the same time as the yarn store, I think,
Right.
Sean was explaining.
And basically the owner came up to me afterwards and says, I've spent over $1 million in architect's fees.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know.
Like that.
I think square footage calculation and percentage, and that would be questionable, but.
So
Then is it that you're not supposed to hire an architect and then you were, I don't know what's appropriate, but I think, there's a reason why some of these things are a little bit burdensome, because we are trying to preserve the historic.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and-
mean,
and-
to be
and-
fair, I kind of do think the last couple meetings have been a bit burdensome and long,
Well-
discussing this, and you're providing a lot of information, so it's not nothing. I've also been through this process before, and it's not nothing to spend this amount of time giving us all this information and all of the communication and being present at these meetings, so, that's appreciated too.
Okay, what I would like to make a motion. I don't know if I can the chairman make a motion? Okay,
You never do though.
I know, I'm always asking, do I have a motion? So that ultimately we approve the demolition, but we have the existing structure documented. And if there are any components that can be salvaged, that you retain them for future construction.
When you say documented,
Yeah.
that's
That's the
There's a-
burden, right?
Well, it depends on what documented
Well,
means
yeah,
as
what
well.
does
Is
that
it like a
mean?
few photos or is it a proper dimensional drawing?
I don't think a dimensional drawing is necessary because realistically, I don't think any structure can be built in that location.
How about
I think
we,
that's a presumption I don't wanna make.
well, how about we then agree to have the length of each wall? So draw a rectangle, get a measuring tape and give us the dimensions of the structure itself, the footprint, and the height to the eave and the height to the peak of the roof, so we have that information.
I
Is
will
that doable?
volunteer to help you do
Yeah.
that. Do you wanna do that?
You wanna go measure a barn with?
Like,
a hard
I'm
hat
very
on?
happy to help you do that, just so there's some like, there's some.
And there's a lot of photographs too, so it can
And
get,
maybe just, even
yeah.
if we just take some photos with a measuring tape, just so
Yeah.
we have some information. So that later on down the road, we have this and you have stuff to draw from when you're thinking
Okay.
about recreating
Now-
something.
What is your motion?
Well, my motion is that the building be documented, whatever is.
As just agreed upon.
as agreed upon.
Yeah, you guys come up with something.
And that, what can be salvaged is salvaged. But essentially the building, comes down.
And if we're approving a demolition, this is when it's like a little bit of a catch-22. She has a letter that is allowing her outside of her jurisdiction as recommended by you to take the barn down, so she can do it kind of
Yeah.
whenever. She's just respecting the process by listening to
Well,
us.
right, I mean, I wanted to see how this kind of netted out,
Yeah.
but I could just ask that.
Right,
Inspector
yeah.
declare, he said, if you want me to declare it
I
unstable, I
know,
will.
that was an interesting note
like-
from.
I kind of like, yeah, it's a little bit.
Yeah, what do we want?
They gave you options, so then
I
it's
wasn't
right.
expecting that to
But,
forward.
you know, I just thought, I wanted to see.
Yeah.
This was-
Yeah.
So we've been emailed.
So if we do approve a demo, does that then trigger all the requirements for a demo?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about. In other words, we're, approving demolition, based on the fact that everything is documented, which is the procedure that we used, on the other buildings that were demolished.
I think that would, I would feel comfortable with
Yeah.
that if it follows that. It's more rigorous than what we were just describing generally.
Well, more rigorous in what? I'm not looking for any dimensional, or maybe some, very basic
He's
dimensions.
referring to a specific process that is required, are you saying?
I thought, I don't know what.
I have not been on the board for any demolition, so I am not aware.
It's just.
Well, there's no process which is identified anywhere. I mean, we're just sort
I mean,
of,
we have to get the permit, and then we have to get all the information, the guys are gonna do it, and blah, blah, all that, but.
I thought this is when, again, I could be wrong, still new, but the certificate of appropriateness in the village code. In addition to the above subsection A, in the case of a proposed demolition, removal or relocation, the applicant must also blah, 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 blah. Feasibility study, report from the licensed engineer, which you have.
are you talking about, economic hardship, certificate of economic hardship?
It says, yeah, appropriateness or economic hardship, and then, I'm sorry, again, this is just my notes, but it just when talking specifically about demolition, it seems like there's a process to properly demolish a building.
There's nothing in the code.
Okay, okay.
And if you look in the design guidelines, also that it's really fairly. It is that because we just don't have that much demolition.
Well, right, yeah,
that
yeah.
goes on, so.
I second your motion to approve the demolition, after the building has been documented as outlined by all present parties.
As
Does
we all
does
agree.
that Cover what we just said?
Yes. I think so. So. Do I have, all right, based on, the motion and the second, and I'll take the votes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I don't think we're there yet. I mean, if I were to say aye to this, I would go join Sarah for a full day's work, you know, doing dimension drawings, documenting. So, you know, it'd be 8 hours of work to record, you know, the existing building. And I, in a way, want to give those pro bono hours to her, but if that's a process, every time, you know, we have a situation like this, that's the solution.
Why is it
Kate's
gonna
like
take-
the,
Why is it gonna take that long?
Well, we just said
the-
just to have,
There's a motion on the table, so
Right.
either,
Well, we're discussing,
yes, but, you know, the motion as it's just presented.
you know, realistically, there is no written down process, and so. With each application, we take a look at it and develop, the solution to it. So,
I mean, having detailed dimension drawings is kind of what we just discussed, not requiring because it's overly burdensome. So having, you know, overall dimensions of the structure with height, et cetera, to me, written down at least, along with
Couple of
photographic
some photos.
evidence, like, to me,
I think dimension drawings would be appropriate for a building that's this old.
I don't think that we should have to go pay somebody to do them.
That's when it's a rub. I agree. I don't know what's best there, but it's what's right for
I
the
mean, I can
building.
pay to have somebody do drawings when I wanna build something,
Right.
but I don't really wanna pay to have somebody do drawings of something that I'm gonna not have there.
I think what you, ideally, I think the drawings of the building that you won't have there will inform the drawings of the building that you will have there. You have to have these old drawings. to
Well, but I don't think they have to
building
be that detailed.
they could also design whatever building they want at whatever size, with whatever roof style, and then it would be up to us at that point. to discuss.
Why are we limiting her replacement building to match this?
I mean, we wanna have a reference, a frame of reference, but it's not like we have to record this so that we can duplicate it, cause, I mean, we're.
There's also no telling who's on the board and when this comes before the board. So, you know, none of us might be here by the time this also happens.
Right. And again, I
But every
think, I
obviously
think no matter what, I don't envision a structure in the same location. I mean, there's no foundation, so I mean, I just have a hard time believing that that somebody at some point in the future is going to rebuild this structure.
I think the house that was in front of the zoning board, however many years ago, was a reinterpretation of this structure. And it sounded like the board at that time, the majority of the board was comfortable with it because it respected the ghost of this.
They were calling it a memory
A
building.
memory building. No, actually, it's a funny name, so I can kind of, but I totally think it's a memory building. I think what they were doing was respectful of its contextual relationship to the main house. The scale, all of these things we're talking about, what they were trying to do is really modern. So it was
Right.
a lot different in that way, but it made sense to me. And if a new building were to go up, I don't think it would look like that or look like, you know, trying to be like an old timey barn necessarily. But I think that the parts of the building that can be preserved, the site and the scale, et cetera, are historically important.
And I have to disagree with that because I think that, I mean, I took a look at it and basically, it was sort of an outlier for all of the structures that are there. And so I don't see, I hear descriptions that this is sort of a unique icon for the village, and I disagree with that. I think that it's a large accessory building, and it's what's the height of your house itself? Is it 2-story?
It's 3.
3-story.
Well, you know, we have a attic, so it's too tall. I might even have. I don't know if I still have.
I had never seen an ice building until like 3 years ago, because you don't see them anymore. And it was like, you know, I don't know if it.
So cool.
It was so cool, and if they didn't put it in a zoo or in like the Met, where
Yeah,
are we
I
gonna see
know,
it?
and the
So-
barns are all being lost. I feel like, I know that you can do whatever you want, but I feel like for our process, I feel like I need to think about this, could be like big precedent setting to me. I mean, it
Okay,
just seems
so there's a
like
motion on the table, so we have 2 yay, 2 ayes,
Yeah.
and 2.
No,
So,
no.
for me, at
Okay.
least, I don't
Or
know.
I think.
I mean,
like,
he has-
change
you
the
have
motion,
a-
like a,
Trigger where you can go.
Yeah, you
pull it
can do that.
down,
You don't
so
need
it
us,
helps.
but-
I'm not
Okay.
suggesting you do. I don't
I
want
mean,
you
if
to,
it's
but.
gonna go on, then that's exactly what it's gonna do. So I don't know, I mean. So
So
I
we
mean,
have
I'm happy to
five,
take measurements and draw pictures.
one
and-
nay,
One
and
nay.
Lauren falls to your vote.
And then it has to vote yes or no. It
No,
can't,
you
like
can-
abstain from this. at the
Wow.
We
moment,
can
or-
vote on something else, a different version of it.
Well, the motion is on the table.
Right,
So
and-
the
and-
motion as stated by the chair and seconded by Todd needs to be voted on. If,
Right.
if the
And-
vote doesn't carry, then we
Right,
have to
the-
revisit
and,
it, I suppose.
well, I guess if you, since there's four of us here, if, two say no,
You don't have,
then it doesn't
quorum.
pass.
You don't have-
So it doesn't pass. All right, so
What's your
then do I have an
Yeah,
alternative?
what's your question?
Could we have an alternative vote where it,
for what?
my motion would be very similar.
Before we go to an alternative
Sorry,
motion,
yeah.
Finalized.
Lauren, I need you to either say yea or nay,
Nay.
or, okay. Or abstain, one or the other,
Abstain.
but we have to, then you can move on to the further
So, the
discussion.
alternative motion,
Okay, before I officially set the motion, just so we don't formalize it
Yeah.
prematurely, it would be to have dimensioned drawings so that when she is ready to build again, we can be historically accurate on the things that we find are important. And I wish I knew exactly what the dollar amount would be on that. I can give a few hours to help in that effort. But I don't think that that can be, I mean, I
Well,
could even
can
say
do
that.
I can do it on the computer and draw it and put dimensions. I mean, I can draw my own. It's not gonna be architecture for architect's drawings, but I mean, I'm a graphic designer. I can go ahead and.
You can draw rectangles and triangles with lines and numbers. Tom did all of our applications. my partners.
somebody with a laser.
I'm not gonna,
Are you making the
I
motion?
will
You're
and
just
assume,
discussing?
just
Okay.
discussing first,
That's
though.
fine.
just
I,
so you
wanna
know.
no,
make
I'm
sure
not,
getting it
I'm
right.
not going to pay somebody to make drawings of this. And I could make my own drawings, they're not gonna be, perfect, and take pictures and write down measurements of things, and there's parts of it that it can't, because it can't go up the stairs, it's not safe.
Yeah,
But
it's really the exterior of the
It-
building anyways, so.
it's, and then even if we have these, it's like you say, it's nice to have a reference, historically of what was there, and, when it's time to actually do something. But also, it's not like, this is what was here, and you have to build this same thing again, obviously, it's just gonna
But it
be.
can help inform what was.
as-
what was-
So with the other buildings that were referenced, the Endless Skyne and the River Architects building and the garage or barn that's down by the train station, the blue, this color maybe, those all were demos and reconstruction, and to do that work back to back, it required existing drawings.
Mhm.
And so what you're saying is, I'm not gonna do them, but I am planning on building, I'm just not
Mhm.
doing it now.
Right,
And
and
so in a
and
way-
and maybe we'd end up not putting anything there, I don't know, I
Right.
mean. You shouldn't, I don't see that there would be, I mean, if we were gonna build something now, by the time we went through all the stuff that we have to go through to do that, the thing will have fallen down anyway.
There's a degree of honor system, I think, that we have to respect with also the fact that like you aren't, again, and you may not be here, I may not, like, none of us may be here, the zoning board may end up saying no for different reasons, like we don't know what you or the next, you might sell the house. Somebody may not build anything, someone may come before us and ask for a one-story building, and then, I mean, we cannot possibly require someone who's asking to build a one-story art studio to say, oh, no, it has to be 2.5 stories like the barn that used to be here, because that's what we want. So
Even if
mean-
you would do that right now if it was getting built.
if they were asking that, if they were asking to reconstruct the exact structure as it stands, where it stands, then yes, I think.
Precedent then, that like the building down by the railroad, they could have just said, we're gonna demo this, it's not safe. And then they demo it, and then they build what they want a few years later.
Well,
I'm not-
they did do that on the back part of the garage. the three garages that face the street, the entire back part was demolished.
But I
And-
don't
and
know
cer-
the project well enough, but I.
Well, the thing is, yeah, I mean, I think that you're trying to ascribe a certain sanctity to elements in the village where there shouldn't be. I mean,
Well, I think that's an important distinction because I think that's a matter of opinion personally, and I
It
think that
is,
obviously
it
you and
is.
I share a little bit closer of an opinion and you two share a closer of an opinion, and there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's a matter of opinion in my mind, how important and I don't think we're saying that it's. I'm certainly not saying that it's not important, but I think we're getting a little bit lost in the quote unquote burden or what we are going to ask for, because we cannot require it, because like we have kind of established here, you are allowed to take down the building without our approval. So it's a matter of, asking for certain things that we may be able to get before it's actually lost and we get nothing. So I personally, if you're willing to, as a graphic designer, draw, even if it's somewhat crudely, draw the building with the dimensions of the walls and the roof and the height of the roof, to me, that feels like a win, because we may not even get that.
I will I am not an architect, but I would do volunteer to come and help do measured drawings of the building, at least so we have even if it's just hand drawings of measurements. And then we have it,
Yeah.
you don't have to pay for it, but we have it, and it's, if you're okay with that.
I don't know if we have to move to do anything then.
well, the question
We're at a
really is
stand- we're at-
that
yeah.
the motion that I made was voted down. Do we have an alternative motion?
Well, I just volunteered to do the documentation, so we can make a motion to allow for the demolition. As long as we documented, we know that
With measured
a board
drawings.
member is going to document it, documented by a board member, for the file. Or something like that for this address.
You want to make that motion?
Can that be the motion?
Yeah.
Now you get to reformulate all those thoughts into a new sentence.
The board moves to approve demolition of the barn. But before it is demolished, it will be documented by an HDRB board member. That will be put in the file and used for any future applications for a secondary building on that site.
I second, it. Well, and can I second?
Yeah, look at that. Look where we've come. Yeah.
So,
Do you second? All right.
Warren, can
All
you
those in
second
favor
it?
say aye.
Aye.
You made
Do
the,
I do it? Do I say it?
well, yeah, you made the motion, so and yes, no?
Yes, you seconded
And
it.
seconded, so
Yeah.
if
Okay.
it's like you said, I mean, you said you do dimension drawings, so documentation, dimension drawings, I can help. Again, I just don't want to set a precedent that I'm like the pro bono architect in
No.
town, but I can help.
But I understand that. I didn't mean to say we will do.
No,
that, but
no,
I just-
no.
we're
It's an important-
volunteers.
I mean, the reality is this is a rare enough occurrence. This is the first time in my, however, I don't know how many years that I've, whatever, doesn't matter.
Okay.
But it was two
Thank
parts,
you.
right? The first part was that it's dimension drawings, and the second part was that it's on file and referenced for any future building.
Which,
That was part of your motion.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
The motion.
The reference, I said to inform
Okay.
Yeah.
the
All right,
building.
so,
Not as a
a-
requirement.
and the only thing that we ask is that you give us enough time in order to do the documentation of the structure. All right? Now, which raises another issue.
I'm sorry, and it's keeping however much existing structure can be kept. That was the
Oh, yeah.
first motion.
The other issue is that,
Yeah, it's a muddy one. There's three parts to it.
Okay, we have
Well,
to
we
be
dropped
clear
part
about
of the
what the board is requiring this applicant to do. So documenting, but now we're adding something.
Are we saving to say salvage materials? Because like, we don't know when there's,
We don't
we
know.
don't know when you're doing it.
What
I think that can, I
it's
think we
gonna
can.
be salvageable or not.
I think
We're
we
gonna
are-
Try to keep
Let
something.
let me
Yeah.
phrase it, salvage what is reasonable,
I would want those to.
and that'll be your judgment.
And if there's any
That's
local.
a different, I just wanna be, like, we need to vote on that as well, because in the first motion, it was that she would save presumably the heavy timbers, right?
No.
Well, we
not
didn't say heavy
necessarily.
timbers,
You
we
said any material that was salvageable. So
salvageable.
that was part of it.
But we get to decide what's salvageable.
Right.
And what we
Are you
want.
gonna go out there and say, and you've gotta save that?
Yeah. We get to decide what we keep. Nobody else does.
I mean, if they're, I don't know how to, I don't know how to.
The only
that
thing I would
is-
say is because, and I'm just speaking because I want the record to be correct. I have no knowledge of all of the professionals here, but if it is going to be something that is going to be referenced, if somebody else comes along and wants to demo something, and I think the motion just needs to be really specific so that it will serve as a guideline for the board going forward. I don't know, it may never happen. But so now we're adding something to a motion that's already,
Well, we
Part of the
can,
First
yeah,
motion.
well, what we can do is we can
Drop that one.
do another motion, a superseding motion, adding this third component.
Which was part of the first, dropped off the second. I would love for it to be added back to the third. And if we're going to go to the site to help measure and spend time drawing this up, maybe between the owner and the board, we can agree on what is worthy of being.
So,
but is that something that when you're using terms like what is reasonable, or what the board considers reasonable, what the applicant might consider
What we
reasonable?
consider is what we
It's just
decide,
like
what
you
we
have to
wanna
be really
keep and what we don't
specific.
wanna keep, and that's.
I get it. I just know for these
You
other
know?
projects that have come down, it has been like months of back and forth about what you can keep and what you need to preserve and show and what structure needs to be kept.
Well,
on windows. So
very
maybe-
little was.
I mean, realistically, I shouldn't have to preserve any of it.
And
But we would like to,
Don't
because
preserve
we like the
those,
barn.
yeah.
We really wanna take
I
it
mean,
down.
you know, realistically,
We have to.
that's all.
It just,
Yeah.
you know, and we would like to save some of, you know, some of it just because, but, you know, I'm not gonna, the chances of actually building something out of it is pretty slim, I would say.
I can-
Can I make a suggestion, just again, so that your record is clear, which is my job? Would it be beneficial to, I mean, I've seen other demolition permits in various files for different things, none of them match this circumstance, and this circumstance may never match another circumstance. But would it be helpful to look at a prior demolition and see how the certificate of appropriateness was?
Well, I can tell you, I can tell you that, as far as I know, nobody ever followed up on, you know, the certificate. Nobody went out there and said, you know, you need to save this, you need to save that. It was all, based on the applicants, their desires.
So then,
I mean, it was based on our asking and again, the honor system and trusting that, you know, people do what they say they're gonna do, but like. you said,
does someone,
Right.
does someone want to then withdraw the prior approved motion, make another motion to be specific so that the board is clear and the applicant is clear, and there's no question as to what her responsibilities are and what the board is
Okay, so
expecting.
Kate, do you wanna make a motion?
Like that game where you have to like hit the right colors and remember which colors you hit. So what were there's.
Well, the first one, demolition's approved. Second one was that the existing structure is documented with photographs and dimension drawings, which you guys are going to help them produce.
there's
And the
determining
third
the
one
nature
is
of the
that,
salvage. Is
uh,
there nothing else that stood out to you?
So why don't we have a motion to withdraw the prior approved motion?
I
Anybody?
would make a motion to withdraw the prior approved
Can
motion.
we have a second for that?
go to second.
I second that.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay. So now we can go to the
So. and
wording of the
third-
motion.
yes, the third one is that, components are salvaged. And the question
At the
becomes
discretion of the owner.
at the discretion of the owner.
That's where I think we're differing. I'm differing from what the owner's requesting, or I would say that the historic review board should, like we do when we look at any building and what can get changed, right? We should be able to request if there's something that we would like to be preserved. So, I'm not.
I think that. I disagree with that.
Don't we do it every time though?
But
Every
she's not, she
application.
doesn't have a new application for a new building going forward. Like another application could come in 20 years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Or never.
or never.
We can't,
So.
I mean, unless
we want
somebody's
somebody
offering to salvage the
keep
materials.
parts of a building.
I could salvage it and
We
then I
got
could call
law.
somebody who wants barnwood and sell it to them.
I mean, to be totally honest,
wanted
that is,
to.
I would have no issue with that at all. I think that the being reused and in any way, shape or form would be great personally, but I would not
But
ask you
I
to.
think whatever we salvage has to be at our discretion and not yours.
It's mostly the heavy timbers that I'm thinking of, just these old growth. Heavy timbers.
Right. But in, then we're just gonna have like a big pile of them in our yard,
Yeah,
basically.
no,
Well,
seriously. Hard.
I wouldn't
You
ask
can-
you to do that.
you-
I
you-
agree, I
well,
would
you
love for them
can-
to be saved, but I
you
would
can
never,
ask, but
I've
you
had
don't-
piles
But
in
you
my
can't
yard,
require.
yeah.
I don't think you can require it.
Okay, so I guess it seems we are at a standstill.
Well, no, we're not at a standstill because what I want to do is, as was stated, that the components of the existing structure be salvaged at the discretion of the owner. So that's the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right,
Okay,
vote.
and that's the,
Can you just say where possible?
Instead of like making it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No. Where
You hate
No,
this so much. I know.
Salvage where possible.
Okay, but
Can we
Go
just
ahead.
say where possible?
At the discretion of the
at
owner.
the discretion of the owner. I mean,
I mean, we're
are
leaving
you,
off.
are you offering up to store some?
No, I'm not, but we're
Okay.
also leaving off the fact that they don't need our approval, so wouldn't we like to move forward in a way where, yes, we are, I mean. We want to support this moving forward, and we also don't want to lose all goodwill with said owner who is sitting at the table with us, so I mean. Where possible to me, salvage the wood where possible, and then. How that's interpreted,
Yeah, but
again,
we need
it's
to
not up
review
to
it.
us.
Okay, where possible.
I will second that motion.
Okay,
and that motion is also going to include.
that's what we're gonna vote on, calling for a vote. Okay, so.
Karen?
Okay, just so the whole motion is complete.
Right.
We have salvaging wherever possible and dimensional requirements to be, for the applicant to be assisted by a member of the
Yes.
board or something, that documentation.
Yeah.
Okay, so documentation of dimensions of the structure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, all right, Todd,
Aye.
Lauren,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
and I vote yes. Okay. So you've got it. And I appreciate your patience, but these are things that we need to work out amongst ourselves because I mean, it's just like the accessory building on Market Street. I mean, we're gonna get a lot of off the wall applications that we have to know how to deal with, so at least,
Oh, the green.
you know. We have to talk amongst ourselves, and then I don't think that the board needs to be unanimous on all of this stuff.
No.
And, you know, if you have an opinion, please let it be known, because I think that that's important. Not everybody, nobody has a lock on being correct.
Absolutely not.
No.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of gray area with all of this, stuff, and, the thing is like, we love the barn, and we're sad about this, but I don't think it's safe to leave it there while we're like trying to figure out what to do with it. And, Judith is sad about it, she's like, oh, I love the barn, I'm like, I know, so we.
And there's other people in the village. I mean, it's funny, as a new board member,
We'll have some
that's
affection for it.
a topic. Oh, you're a new board member. What are the projects on the table? That barn they want to take down. I mean, this is really important, because there are a lot of people who are not happy that this barn is coming down. And so I
Well,
think
they're
the
welcome to, whatever they
Come
wanna
pick up
start a
the pieces.
fund to.
Yeah.
All right, but
Good, can we do that?
that raises another issue that I'd like to toss out to the board members, and Sarah, we'll be in touch as far as the documentation, and I'll try to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition request.
So.
And I know I just was like the total pest at this table for what you're trying to do, so I'm sorry that had to be me in that role. It
Somebody's-
apparently was. But I am happy to come out with a laser and a tape and like get this into AutoCAD and document it properly.
Photographs, and then we have it.
Yeah.
However it informs the future.
Right now, I've got another question.
But yeah.
Can
if we
Sarah
don't,
leave?
we can-
Yes,
Right.
I mean, I've been trying to close down.
Also, can we do minutes next meeting?
There we go. Thank you.
No, what you want us to do
Not
on that?
10 o'clock yet, it's not 10 o'clock yet. All right,
Okay.
very, very quickly, the other issue is that we have requested documentation for various structures that have been demolished. But frankly, I don't know where that documentation is. I know it was performed. But we don't have a regular repository that we can take stuff to. My
I love
thought,
when we used to use the Google Drive personally.
well, the Google Drive is one option. The
When we
other,
did the
the other
guidelines, like
option,
I photographed everything and upload, like I like organizing things that way.
all right. Well, do we want to use the Google Drive as the archive, or do we want to set it up either the Putnam County Historical Society or the library, the Butterfield Library?
Something like the Google Drive couldn't technically be used. because
By
it wasn't-
legal stuff or something,
legal
privacy, so I don't, yeah.
Like it can be a
I mean,
temporary.
we
space.
used it all through COVID when we were remote and zooming, that's how we did it, but maybe as a permanent thing, there's an issue with it, I don't
I
know.
mean, if we can, that would be
Easy,
easy.
it's
and that'd be
easiest,
amazing.
and then we have access at all times to add, like,
Okay. Does anybody want to investigate that option?
whether we can do it.
Yes.
Isn't that a question for John, the attorney, or something?
I think Sean does know something, because when he,
Did
talked
we
to
already
me,
talk?
he had a
Well-
virtual copy and saying it's very.
Are you concerned about?
I'm not really concerned
Privacy?
about any, no, I mean, this is, as far as I knew, it was fine, because we did it for the first 2 years that I was on the board, that's how I looked at everything.
Well, I mean, that's what the applications go. But I'm talking about a archive where we store all the documentation. Because we've got documentation for the yarn store.
That would be great too.
I think that is a great place for that to live, because it also is easy to organize into different folders. It can be a folder called demolition with subfolders for each. There's photo folders, I mean, this is a place that we can add to over time as well. I've always thought it would be great, you know, I'm going for a walk. I'm a good photographer, snap a picture of each house on this street and then be like, oh, Cedar Street, and here are like great images of all the houses from 2020, you know, like. And that's stuff that new board members could add to over time without,
Okay.
so I think that
It
would
sounds
be.
like you just volunteered.
Well, I don't know what I'm volunteering for. I don't know where any of that stuff is now, but I think I vote we should use Google Drive.
Okay,
Second that.
Yeah,
all in favor, say aye. Aye, okay. Now, the question, Karen, is that who has access to it?
Well, that's, okay,
to Google Drive, our drive, shared drive.
when I first came here, Sean was doing it.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know how well it's been kept up, I know he's.
Well, it hasn't been kept up.
There's been nothing
But
since we
it
started
is-
coming
it
in
is-
person.
For purposes of the village has its own records, so you have to, and it's probably a better question for the village attorney or something you want to discuss with Jeff. But if you're maintaining things on Google that pertain to properties in the village, and that's not going to be in the village building department records, there's gonna be some inconsistency.
I kind
So
of think
that's
it's
something you have to discuss.
I
I'm not the
think
one
the-
with the answer.
the privacy concern. I think it's less about really the only village, the only private potentially material we're talking about is these demolition items. I'm more meaning as a way to organize future, even just photographic material
But
from.
let's just say, as an example, you make us, I'm just using this
Yeah.
as an example. You take upon a special project to gather information on
The
the
barn.
on the barn or any other building that you wanna document in the Google Drive. 10 years down the line, the new owner of that house comes to the front desk and wants to foil that property. Whatever you're doing in the Google Drive is not going to be available to us because we have our own building department records.
Yeah.
So I just think it's an issue that should be proposed to Jeff and maybe the
Yeah.
village attorney, because
Right.
it's a question of keeping records, which, you know, are.
I still think formally everything is existing and living in the village hall. It's more
Well-
just a matter of easily organizing.
the-
for
The thing that you have to,
Digital records. In other
yeah,
words, when someone comes here and says, I want to foil, you know, it's a title search, and I want all the information on 21 Parsonage. We have our own digital records that we go to try and fulfill that request.
Yeah,
And we have certain obligations to
Yeah.
fulfill that request accurately. So if you're documenting things on Google that are not really part of the village records,
even
I
if they're
just-
duplicated.
well, how are we gonna know that?
Well, I'm just thinking,
Because
okay,
well,
I think Sean,
let me ask a question, because I've been going to the village website to get documents for the certificate of appropriateness. It used to be that what I would do is I would upload everything on a Google Drive. But my question is that what happens to the files, all of the application forms, drawings, etc., that are in fact on the drive?
well, they're either in the physical files that haven't been scanned, or if they're older files, I think starting in.
No, I'm talking about, like, let's say,
Then they get scanned into the.
for this
building
meeting,
department.
there were a number of records that were on the website.
Right,
What happens to them? Do they stay there?
those, what's put on the website is what is in this file.
Right.
So if a person comes here tomorrow and says, I'd like to foil 21 Parsonage Street, we have to not only look at past records of 21 Parsonage that may have been scanned into the building department files, I would also have to go to any current files. These are current. Someday they'll be scanned into the building department. But if there's separate records in Google that maybe contain other documentation. We can't do both. I think it's just something that you have to. My sense of what the Google was for, so that you guys would have access. In other words, when Sean, we would send
Yeah.
you guys what's been submitted to us. And you put them on the Google Drive, because it's more convenient, or and you all have a Gmail. So you can go in there and do that. You're not really creating anything new
Always copies.
there, because you're only putting in there what we're sending you.
Yeah.
But when you talk about, well, maybe, I can go around and take my own pictures or document, you may be creating files that may not be official to the village, and maybe in the long run it won't mean anything. But we're not gonna search the Google Drive. to
Okay,
get
now,
records.
when I email the certificate of appropriateness, how is that transferred into the village
Okay,
file?
we scan it in. So in other words, if I go into the HDRB on the village website, okay, in our documents, there's different sections. So for 2024, we set up a whole new section. Agendas, minutes, C of A, notice to building inspector. So when you send a certificate, I scan that. That then gets copied into our records for 2024 under the C of A. If you send out a notice to the building inspector, it goes in there. So, because this is the repository for the official records. So it's really a legal question that I think you need to ask the village attorney. And I don't want to opine where I'm should not be.
But Karen said.
Yeah, I know, because it's on here. But I think it's a question that you need to just kind of flesh out, and just to make sure that village records are complete.
Okay, let's finish up. Because 10 o'clock.
Are we doing this?
Well,
Right
all right,
now?
there is no public comment. The revised applications, anybody have any objection to the way the application was revised with the new
Logo?
And just to point out, because Al had noticed this on the one that was on the website. Steps to securing the certificate under 7, it had the wrong date and time, probably for 20 years or something.
No, we did
So-
just change it last
Okay.
year,
So,
so.
and the monthly,
Wasn't that long.
the HDRB, it's now correct, the first Tuesday of the month at 7:30.
Yeah.
So that's the only real change we made, except for the seal.
Okay, now these meetings for January 16th.
Oh, okay, that's just for you.
Yeah,
All
we're,
right, well, but the thing is that I do want the version where we have the members at the bottom. In other
Oh,
words,
well,
That's on this version.
that's on that version.
no, that's on the
That's
new,
February
that's
6th.
2/6.
This is January 16th.
Oh,
I can put a foot on.
Well, I mean, did you send this to me in Word format? Or is it a
I sent it
PDF?
to you, I think a while ago. I don't think it makes a difference. I can.
Well, it
change
does. I
and
mean, if it's
send
a
it.
PDF, then I can't change it. I can't edit the footer.
Okay, so why don't we just put that aside
Okay, send it to me in Word format,
with the footer.
and I'll correct it and I'll send it. All right,
are we doing this right now?
Did
Yes.
we?
Are we
have-
adjourning?
Do you want to, I'm just throwing it out there, because I know that the zoning board, they made substantive changes in their application, which they were gonna give to the Board of Trustees. Do you want to submit this to them, or it's just a technical change for a date and time?
I think it's, I don't want to make changes. I mean, we keep changing it and
Okay.
changing it.
So that'll be,
That'll be it.
okay.
Anybody have comments on the minutes for February 16th?
Person and the board comment, the fourth paragraph down. I think I just said it was a story, not necessarily a great story. Just say great. We don't know. Where is that? This paragraph down. The board comment 1, 2, 3. Just remove them. Thank you.
This is, I don't think it matters in the end, well, you all can tell me, but, for the Leahy Pavilion windows,
Which
page 3, for, under my name, what's the depth of the proposed windows? The second, will the windows meet the brick coursing? I think this is 2 comments that got put together, and one was, if the meeting rail will align with the brick coursing, and the other was if the windows will be a full frame brick to brick. In the end, I think this say covers it, I don't know if it needs to be amended, but it's just confusing. There's,
Well, yeah, what you're saying is that the windows have the meeting rail aligned with the brick coursing.
with the, yeah, cause it.
Well,
changes the vertical.
that pretty much says it because it says a manner consistent with the existing building windows.
And then maybe we just strike brick to brick then,
Brick to
because that's
brick,
where it's,
yeah.
but
So, what, you want that out?
And the depth of the proposed windows from the face brick. Right, that's what we're talking
What
about.
is the depth of the proposed windows
yeah, from the
from,
facade.
from the
Well-
facade? Is that what you wanna
Yeah,
say?
the shape of brick, yeah,
From the face brick? Okay,
and then the main one was, someone must have picked it up here though, right, the full width first. And insert.
No, I think I just said whether the dimensions. But the-
So-
maybe 2, not specific.
So maybe, again, I just tell me this doesn't matter because we pick it up today, but maybe if you can add one more bullet that just is saying
under,
under me, I mean, I think we all said it in different ways, but that the new windows would be full frame brick to brick, not insert. When you said it, we all kind of said it.
That's.
Someone else says it somewhere?
Yeah, down here.
Okay, never mind, you can strike
No.
it, it's in there.
okay,
Okay. Which,
Oh, wait a minute, well, I actually should change it, then it says, I remember asking the question if it was an insert window, and she didn't really know.
We didn't know until we talked to Ray, and then we were on the phone with Ray and he said it wasn't.
should I, on this topic, because there is a lot, we're spending time now where we all probably want to go, but there's a lot of time that was spent on trying to,
Figure this out.
figure it out and to educate and, draw sketches so she could use. Can I send you all like a proposed, maybe there's slightly different versions of a worksheet depending on what type of window, just by email, and you
Oh,
can
yeah,
mark it
yeah.
up and we can agree
That'd
it?
be amazing.
Okay,
Right, so under mine, it says, asked whether it was an insert window. can an insert window where there is no frame within which to insert it?
That was exactly what you said. And in fact,
Knowing Karen,
I-
she went back and looked at the
in
video and
fact,
she was like, this makes no
tried
sense. But
tonight,
I'm
I
gonna write it
tried
this way. I think we should let the record reflect what actually was said then.
Is that what you think? Okay.
Also, that
I'm
Al
willing
showed
to
up at
live with it.
7:32 last meeting and 7:34 this meeting.
Any other,
Any other?
No comments.
Okay. Do I have a motion concerning the minutes from February sixth?
I'll vote to approve. I will vote to approve the minutes from February 6th as amended.
Do I have a second?
Say it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
All right, team.
and we
so,
have a motion to adjourn.
oh, that's right, yeah.
I will also make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye. No, wait, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
We'll just end it.